Your soulmate has been secretly suffering in silence. The real reason will leave you speechless. Before this moment slips away, stay with these words for just a little while. There are seasons in life when two hearts seem separated by distance, silence, or circumstances neither of them fully understands. Yet beneath everything the eyes can see, something deeper continues to move. Love does not always announce itself with loud voices. Sometimes it hides inside unanswered prayers, sleepless nights, and quiet moments when someone whispers your name without anyone else hearing. If you found these words today, perhaps it is because your heart has already begun to sense what your mind has not yet realized. There is someone whose soul has been carrying a weight that no smile could conceal. They have walked through ordinary days while quietly fighting extraordinary battles within themselves. The people around them believed everything was fine because they learned long ago how to hide pain behind kindness. But every evening, when the noise of the world faded and they were finally alone with their thoughts, one question returned again and again. It was not a question about success, money, or recognition. It was a question about you. They wondered whether destiny had forgotten them. They wondered whether the invisible path leading toward you had somehow disappeared. There were moments when hope became so faint that even believing felt exhausting. Yet each time they prepared to surrender, something unexplainable happened. A memory appeared without warning. A familiar feeling settled over their heart. A quiet certainty reminded them that not every delay is a denial, and not every silence means the story has ended. What they never understood was why this connection refused to disappear. They tried convincing themselves that it was only imagination, only loneliness, only another passing emotion. But every attempt to let go somehow brought them back to the same invisible thread that continued pulling them toward the future. They could not explain it to anyone because there were no perfect words for what they felt. Some experiences are too sacred for ordinary conversations. While they appeared calm on the outside, an invisible transformation had already begun within them. Every disappointment was quietly shaping their compassion. Every unanswered prayer was strengthening their patience. Every lonely night was teaching them how to recognize a love built on truth instead of illusion. They did not know it then, but the silence they feared was preparing both of you for a meeting that required healed hearts instead of hurried expectations. There is a reason hidden beneath their suffering, and it is far deeper than anyone around them could imagine. The pain was never meant to destroy them. It was revealing every fear they still carried, every wound they had buried, and every belief that whispered they were not worthy of lasting love. Until those shadows were faced, they could never fully receive the connection they secretly longed for. Perhaps you have felt something unusual yourself. Maybe there have been moments when someone entered your thoughts without explanation. Maybe certain dreams stayed with you long after sunrise. Maybe your heart has felt unexpectedly heavy on days when nothing seemed wrong. These moments are not proof of destiny by themselves, but they can remind us that human hearts often notice emotions before logic understands them. The greatest surprise is not that your soulmate has been suffering in silence. The greatest surprise is that much of that suffering came from wanting to become the kind of person who could protect rather than hurt the one they hoped to love. They feared repeating old mistakes. They feared bringing unfinished pain into a future that deserved peace. So instead of rushing forward, they remained still, allowing life to teach them lessons that could never be learned through comfort alone. Every difficult season slowly transformed them. The person they once were began fading, replaced by someone gentler, wiser, and more patient. They started noticing beauty in small moments they had once ignored. They learned that strength is often measured by the ability to remain kind after experiencing disappointment. They discovered that forgiveness is sometimes the doorway through which hope quietly returns. Even now, they do not realize how close they are to stepping into an entirely different chapter of life. The silence that once felt endless is beginning to break in ways they cannot yet see. The answers they searched for are already moving toward them, one unseen step at a time. Sometimes the most meaningful journeys unfold quietly, long before anyone notices that everything has changed. So if these words have reached your heart today, do not let fear convince you that every unanswered question will remain unanswered forever. Life has a way of revealing its deepest truths when we have become strong enough to receive them. The story is still unfolding, and what feels hidden today may become unmistakably clear tomorrow. The days ahead will not announce themselves with thunder or dramatic signs. Instead, they will arrive the way dawn always does, quietly replacing darkness until you suddenly realize the light has been there all along. Your soulmate has spent so much time believing they had to carry every burden alone that they almost forgot what hope felt like. Yet even in their weakest moments, a small flame refused to disappear. It remained alive because somewhere beyond every unanswered question, their heart continued believing that real love would never ask them to become someone they were never meant to be. Every tear they hid became another lesson in compassion. Every disappointment became another reminder that temporary pain does not define an eternal purpose. They stopped chasing approval from people who could never understand the language of their heart and began listening to the quiet wisdom growing within them. That inner voice did not promise an easy road, but it promised that every difficult step would eventually reveal its meaning. There were nights when they looked toward the sky searching for reassurance that their story had not been forgotten. They wondered whether anyone could truly see the battles taking place behind their smile. What they did not realize was that the greatest transformations often happen where no audience exists. Character is shaped in silence. Faith grows in waiting. Love becomes stronger when it survives seasons that seemed impossible to endure. The real reason behind their suffering was never punishment. It was preparation. Every closed door redirected them away from relationships built upon fear, pride, or illusion. Every delay protected them from rushing into moments that would have stolen the peace they were meant to discover. Looking back one day, they will understand that what once felt like abandonment was actually guidance leading them toward a future they could not yet imagine. Somewhere within your own journey, similar lessons have been unfolding. Perhaps you have questioned why certain connections disappeared without explanation. Perhaps you have wondered why your heart continued searching even after convincing yourself to move forward. Sometimes life creates distance, not to separate two souls forever, but to allow each one to become whole before their paths truly meet. A heart filled with fear cannot fully receive a love built upon trust. A spirit exhausted by old wounds cannot easily recognize the peace standing before it. Healing is rarely comfortable, yet it is often the doorway through which lasting joy quietly enters. Imagine standing beside a river after a long storm. The water still carries signs of everything it has passed through, yet it continues flowing toward the ocean without bitterness. Your soulmate has become like that river. Their pain has not disappeared overnight, but it no longer controls the direction of their life. They have begun choosing forgiveness over resentment, hope over despair, patience over panic. These choices may seem small, but together they have reshaped the person they are becoming. One day they will speak honestly about the nights they cried without anyone knowing. They will remember the moments they almost gave up and realize those very moments became the foundation of their greatest strength. They will understand that silence was never empty. It was filled with unseen growth taking place beneath the surface. Just as a seed spends countless days hidden beneath the soil before anyone witnesses the first sign of life, their heart has been quietly preparing for a season of renewal. Do not mistake hidden progress for the absence of progress. Some of life's greatest miracles begin where human eyes cannot yet see. If your heart has felt strangely connected to these words, allow them to remind you of something simple yet powerful. Do not measure your future by your present uncertainty. Measure it by the courage you continue choosing despite uncertainty. Every act of kindness, every moment of forgiveness, every decision to keep believing instead of surrendering shapes the road ahead in ways that often remain invisible until much later. Your soulmate is no longer the person they were when this journey began. They have learned that love cannot be forced, borrowed, or controlled. It must be received with humility, protected with honesty, and nurtured with patience. That realization has changed everything within them. The suffering that once felt meaningless has become the very reason they now understand the value of genuine connection. When the time is right, the silence that surrounded their heart will become a testimony rather than a prison. They will no longer remember only the pain. They will remember the wisdom, the resilience, and the quiet hope that refused to leave even when everything else seemed uncertain. And perhaps the greatest surprise of all will not be discovering how much they suffered in silence. It will be discovering how every hidden tear, every unanswered prayer, and every lonely night gently shaped two separate journeys into one story that neither heart could have written alone. Until that moment arrives, keep walking with quiet faith. Continue becoming the person your future is asking you to become. Trust that what is built with patience stands stronger than what is rushed through fear. The chapter you are living today is not the final page. It is only the place where unseen beginnings are preparing to become visible, where silent healing is preparing to become joyful celebration, and where a love refined through patience is preparing to step into the light it has been moving toward all along. As this journey continues, something remarkable begins to unfold beyond what either of you can immediately recognize. The invisible distance that once seemed impossible to cross is no longer measured by miles or circumstances but by the final lessons each heart is gently learning. There comes a moment in every meaningful story when waiting is no longer about reaching another person, it becomes about discovering the quiet strength that has been growing within all along. Your soulmate has reached that moment. They no longer wake each day asking why life has been unfair. Instead, they ask how they can carry more compassion, more wisdom, and more peace into whatever tomorrow brings. That single change has transformed everything. The fears that once echoed loudly inside them have begun losing their power because they finally understand that genuine love is never built upon desperation. It grows where honesty, patience, and humility take root. Every painful memory that once felt like a chain has slowly become a reminder of how far they have already come. They have learned to forgive themselves for the moments they were not strong enough, for the decisions made from fear instead of faith, and for the times they believed they had missed every opportunity life intended for them. In forgiving themselves, they unknowingly opened the door for a future they had been praying for without realizing it. Perhaps you have experienced something similar. Perhaps there have been moments when your heart quietly whispered that your story was not over even while your mind insisted nothing would ever change. Hope often survives where logic cannot. It remains alive because the deepest truths of life are rarely visible before the right season arrives. Imagine standing before a forest just before sunrise. At first everything appears covered in darkness, yet the light has already begun its journey long before your eyes notice it. In the same way, the answers you have searched for may already be moving closer even if today's circumstances appear unchanged. Every sunrise begins before anyone sees the first ray of light. Every breakthrough begins before anyone hears the first celebration. Your soulmate is discovering that peace is not found by controlling every outcome but by trusting that what is truly meant to remain will never be lost through patience. This realization has softened the places where fear once ruled. It has replaced constant worry with quiet confidence. They no longer chase signs out of panic. They simply continue becoming someone capable of giving the kind of love they once hoped only to receive. That is the hidden miracle taking place within them. The suffering that once threatened to break their spirit has become the very fire that refined it. Their silence was never empty. It was a sacred classroom where resilience was quietly taught one difficult day at a time. And now, as the season begins to change, they are carrying forward not the weight of yesterday but the wisdom it left behind. There will come a day when both of you look back and realize that every unexpected delay protected something precious. Had the journey unfolded more quickly, neither heart would have been ready to recognize the blessing standing before it. Some gifts must wait until the soul has grown strong enough to hold them with gratitude instead of fear. This is why patience has never been your enemy. It has been your unseen companion, guiding each step even when the destination remained hidden beyond the horizon. Continue choosing kindness even when bitterness seems easier. Continue believing that every act of forgiveness releases another piece of yesterday's burden. Continue walking forward without allowing disappointment to convince you that silence means absence. Sometimes silence is simply the sound of unseen foundations being carefully built beneath a future too beautiful to be rushed. One day your soulmate will no longer describe this chapter as the season they suffered in silence. They will call it the season that taught them how to love without fear, how to trust without certainty, and how to remain faithful even when the answers arrived more slowly than expected. That will be the moment they finally understand the real reason behind every hidden tear. It was never to leave them broken. It was to prepare them for a life where love is no longer driven by anxiety but sustained by peace, where every scar has become a reminder that healing is possible, and where every quiet prayer has become part of a story still unfolding with grace. So if these words have found you today, carry them gently into the days ahead. Do not rush the chapters that have not yet revealed themselves. Trust that every sunrise arrives at its appointed time and every meaningful beginning is worth the patience it requires. What has been quietly growing beneath the surface will not remain hidden forever. When the moment finally comes, you will understand that nothing meaningful was ever truly lost. It was simply being prepared in silence until both hearts were ready to receive it with gratitude, courage, and a peace that no storm could ever take away. The quiet work taking place within both of your hearts is nearing a turning point, even if the world around you still appears unchanged. There are moments in life when everything meaningful happens beneath the surface, where unseen roots grow stronger before a single branch reaches toward the light. Your soulmate has entered that hidden season. The tears they once believed were signs of weakness have become reminders that a compassionate heart is never formed through comfort alone. Every disappointment taught them patience. Every unanswered question taught them humility. Every lonely evening taught them how to remain faithful to hope even when certainty could not be found. Slowly, almost without noticing, they stopped asking why everything had happened to them and began asking what every experience was preparing them to become. That single question opened a new path. Instead of carrying yesterday's pain into tomorrow's dreams, they started releasing burdens that had never truly belonged to them. Old fears lost their voice. Old regrets loosened their grip. The heavy silence that once surrounded them no longer felt empty. It became a place where peace quietly settled, where courage grew without needing recognition, and where love was no longer defined by fear of loss but by the willingness to remain open despite uncertainty. You may not realize it yet, but your own journey has been shaping you in similar ways. Every challenge you survived has added another layer of wisdom that could never have been learned through easy victories. Every moment you chose kindness instead of bitterness changed something inside you, even when no one else noticed. Growth rarely announces itself. It simply continues until one day you look back and realize you are responding to life with a heart that has become calmer, stronger, and far more compassionate than before. That is how lasting transformation happens. It is quiet, steady, and often invisible until the right moment arrives. Your soulmate now stands at the edge of a new chapter, carrying lessons that once seemed impossible to understand. They know that rushing destiny only creates confusion, while patience allows every piece of the story to arrive in its proper place. They have learned to treasure honesty more than appearances, peace more than temporary excitement, and genuine connection more than empty promises. Those lessons have become the foundation of the person they are becoming. There will come a day when they speak about this season without sadness. Instead, they will remember it as the time that taught them resilience, gratitude, and unwavering hope. They will see that every delay protected them from paths that would have led them away from the life they were truly meant to experience. The silence they feared was never evidence that they had been forgotten. It was simply the space where unseen preparation continued, where character was refined, and where faith quietly matured beyond the need for constant reassurance. If these words have reached your heart today, allow them to remind you that not every answer arrives immediately, but every sincere step forward has meaning. Continue choosing forgiveness where resentment once seemed easier. Continue choosing patience where fear demands urgency. Continue believing that hope is never wasted, even when the road ahead cannot yet be fully seen. Some of the most beautiful beginnings appear only after the longest seasons of waiting. When that moment finally arrives, you will understand that every hidden lesson, every quiet prayer, and every difficult chapter became part of a larger story that was gently unfolding all along. Until then, walk forward with quiet confidence. Let your heart remain open to growth, your spirit remain anchored in peace, and your actions reflect the kindness you wish to receive. The future is not asking you to have every answer today. It is simply inviting you to keep becoming the person who can recognize and cherish the blessings that appear when the time is right. And when the next chapter begins, you will discover that nothing meaningful was ever truly lost. It was patiently finding its way toward the moment when both hearts had become strong enough to receive it with gratitude, wisdom, and a peace that remains steady through every changing season. And now, as this story reaches its final chapter, there is one truth that quietly rises above every question that once filled your heart. The greatest mystery was never whether your soulmate was suffering. The greatest mystery was why that suffering never completely extinguished their hope. The answer is simple, yet profound. Deep within every human heart lives a quiet strength that awakens only after it has walked through seasons where nothing seems certain. Your soulmate has discovered that strength. They are no longer defined by the loneliness they once carried or by the fears that once whispered they would always remain unseen. Instead, they have become someone who understands that lasting love begins within a peaceful heart before it is ever shared with another person. Every difficult chapter has gently reshaped their perspective. They have learned that patience is not wasted time, forgiveness is not weakness, and hope is not naive. These have become the foundation upon which their future now rests. Looking back, they will no longer remember only the pain. They will remember how every setback quietly redirected them toward wisdom, how every unanswered question taught them humility, and how every silent night became an invitation to grow into the person they were always capable of becoming. If your own heart has recognized something familiar throughout this journey, perhaps the greatest invitation is not to predict what tomorrow will bring, but to live today with courage, kindness, and honesty. We rarely control the timing of life's most meaningful moments, yet we always have the ability to choose the spirit with which we meet them. Continue becoming someone who brings peace wherever you go. Continue speaking words that heal rather than divide. Continue believing that even when life feels uncertain, every act of compassion carries lasting value. The future does not belong to fear. It belongs to those who continue walking with hope even when the destination is hidden beyond the horizon. Your soulmate has reached that understanding, and whether your paths cross sooner or later, the most important transformation has already begun within both of you. No storm lasts forever. No winter remains unchanged. Every dawn arrives after a night that once seemed endless, and every new beginning is quietly prepared long before anyone recognizes its arrival. Perhaps that is the deepest lesson hidden within this entire story. The waiting was never empty. The silence was never meaningless. The tears were never wasted. They watered unseen seeds of wisdom, compassion, resilience, and gratitude that are now beginning to grow into something beautiful. As you move forward from these words, carry this reminder with you: let your heart remain open, let your actions reflect kindness, and let your hope be stronger than your doubts. Do not allow yesterday's disappointments to decide tomorrow's possibilities. There is quiet strength in choosing peace again, quiet courage in trusting again, and quiet beauty in believing that every season has its purpose. One day you may look back on this chapter and realize that what once appeared to be the end was simply the place where a better beginning was taking shape. Until then, cherish the lessons you have gained, release the burdens you no longer need to carry, and step into each new day with gratitude for the person you are becoming. Some answers arrive slowly because they are shaping not only your circumstances but also your character. And character is a treasure that remains long after every temporary challenge has passed. Let this be the final thought you carry from this journey: true love is never measured only by emotion. It is revealed through patience, strengthened by honesty, protected by compassion, and sustained by hope. Whatever tomorrow holds, never underestimate the quiet power of a heart that continues choosing light after walking through darkness. The story ends here, but your own journey continues. Walk forward with wisdom, with peace, and with the confidence that every meaningful step you take today is preparing you for the blessings you have not yet seen. Sometimes the most extraordinary endings are simply the beginning of a life lived with greater faith, deeper gratitude, and a heart finally free to embrace whatever goodness lies ahead.